If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Oh yeah, nice. Welcome everybody to the Blair on the Air podcast. Mason, hit us with an intro.
Oh.
The same one as Blair on the Air.
Oh. Live from Studio B in the heart of Johnson City, it's Blair on the Air.
Remember our intro theme song?
Yes, I do.
Blair on the Air, the TV show, the During COVID TV show.
The answer to concerts during a pandemic. Really genius.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And now
good.
we talk about stuff. I am Daniel Blair, your host. I am a violinist. I teach music here at Blair Academy for the Arts. I am joined, camera left,
Ivy Blair.
by my mother, Ivy Blair, the world's greatest instructor of children, as illustrated by her numerous accolades and even more numerous current students. You do teach a pretty crazy load of current students.
I do.
What's the earliest you start lessons?
6:15
It's so early. Wait, in the morning?
in the morning, a.m.
Oh my goodness.
This is Mason Van Horn.
Hi.
Hi, how's
Yay.
it going?
It's well.
You're going to be seeing a lot more of these people as we continue to explore what it's like to be a music teacher, a music student, an artist, and then a bunch of weird, crazy stuff. Bang. So we'll start with, it is rather Christmassy.
Festive.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody, one and all. Mason,
Yeah.
what are some things that you like about Christmas, specifically in the music space?
Ooh, I love the community aspect of music. At Christmas time, it seems like all of the music is really geared towards everyone participating in music together. And most of the time people have these, they have this memory of just fellowshipping and hanging out around Christmas carols or these funny moments. And I think it is a moment in music where it is acceptable to be silly. Just a little bit silly or a little bit humorous. And
Often
I love
acceptable
that.
to be silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miss Ivy, aka Mom, how did you feel about our Christmas performances? We had 14 of them, and we did them here
They were awesome.
on
Yeah.
the stage.
Not
Studio
even
B.
exhausting. They were just
Well, first of all, Mason had injured his lower lumbar
That's
back
true.
muscles. By the way, how's that feeling?
It's feeling much better.
Like, you ready to deadlift or still probably not?
I can do some push-ups again.
Oh, nice.
You were the one who was so sick.
I was getting over the flu. And while I was technically not contagious, my body told me that I should have been in bed. But I wasn't. I had to be there for those little kitties. And I was telling, Mason and I were talking about it earlier, we didn't have any train wrecks.
No.
We
No.
kind of had, going off script a little on the adult recital, there were some lyrics that went awry.
Yes.
But that's okay.
That happens, you know.
So you guys both teach voice and piano, right? But I would say my perception is that voice is your primary instruments, both of you, right? I know you've got a lot of students do cool stuff in many instruments. But if you had to pick, your student is performing on stage, pretty big, challenging piece for them. Would you rather them forget lyrics or have a pretty noticeable voice break? And why?
I'd rather they forget lyrics because there's way more what you can do to make up for that. You can la-la. You can make up lyrics. There's a lot easier
always
way to
a
cover
pain.
up.
Lyrics.
But once your voice cracks, it's like everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of what the lyrics part is something that can be resolved with just quick like practice or memorizing. And I think the vocal cracking is something that can be a real like energy buster to.
Have you ever had that happen?
Oh yeah. Oh, my
okay.
goodness.
Have you ever had that happen?
No.
During Christmas songs, definitely. One is Mary, Did You Know? My goodness, that song goes up and up and up, and then I think a lot of people just notice that the song is performed, they really enjoy it. And whenever I performed that song once, and it was just sort of like impromptu, but I just remember going up and I was like, oh my goodness, what happened? And yeah, so
did you die?
I didn't die. I mean, but what was I was able to sort of back it up with my piano playing, and so there were other things. There were other things people were also aware of. So it's fun. But I think whenever you do have those moments where your voice cracks, it's like you just have to get yourself through the notion that even if your voice does crack, like you still have a job to finish the song. But if you immediately stop after something like that, people will be more observant of that and how you let that defeat you versus like, they'll be more excited to see that you prevailed over something like that. Because it's
like you become an instant underdog.
Yeah, and the thing is it's a natural part of your vocal development. Like we go through a period of change in our life where our voices are just trying to understand what's going on with these chemical changes occurring in your body. And so you shouldn't be ashamed of those moments. You should just take it as a learning experience and be like, oh, this is a balance of that process of training the muscles.
Many of them will feel ashamed.
I would just prefer to forget lyrics than to
I would. Oh my goodness!
Let's return to this.
Whenever I feel like I'm going to a note that I can't do, I'm like, like you just sort of croon into there. Not that is a preferred technique. You should not only do that, but forgetting lyrics is, I think, so much easier for me to come back.
It's never happened to me. First of all. Actually, that's literally not even true. In my entire very short singing career, it's been terrible. Yeah,
it's a journey. It's a journey.
It's a journey for everybody.
Yeah. Speaking of journeys, so one of the things that I was thinking of was like, I have the idea of our proudest like Christmas performance moments, and
of all time or just this year?
All time, and then also
of ourselves or for our students?
Ourselves, and our greatest Christmas faux pas, like where you were like, "Oh, I'm ready for this," and then you were like, "Nope, can't do that." I don't know.
What a good question.
So I'll start with one. So for me, I think one of my proudest moments was I was hired to perform in an oratorio as the tenor soloist, and it was Saint-Saëns Christmas oratorio.
Saint-Saëns?
Yeah, Saint-Saëns. Yeah, he's a French composer. It loves voices, but also enjoys other instruments as well. But I sang his Christmas oratorio, and that was a really big step for me personally, just to fulfill this entire role. And so I was like, yes.
What were you wearing?
I was wearing a tuxedo.
Nice.
Like it's the.
Is that restricting? Like, do you tie the bow tie differently, like you might socially, or like if you're going to a party versus if you're gonna sing? Do you like have that away from your neck? I'm weird about stuff around my neck when I play violin because it seems very constricting.
I think it just depends. I can't remember if I was wearing a tie or not.
There would be something too tight, obviously.
But for tenors, it's always easy to sort of like throw off certain traditions and just like unbutton the top button. Now in performance, it's really common to not wear a tie. That's a common trend right now in concert performing.
You have a Christmas performance memory?
I do. I sang the lead in Amal and the Night Visitors.
Ooh.
That was the highlight of my opera career.
Ooh.
But it was a highlight.
I have heard you I don't actually remember a time before you talking about this, mostly because Myrna was there,
Yes.
my oldest sister. That's pretty cool. What were your memories there? Was it so? If that was your biggest thing, were you nervous going up to there, or?
I just loved it. I don't remember how nervous you know how you don't really remember after the performance how things went.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it was a full opera, so it was fun acting through the entire thing and singing and being the mother. And so it was, and it's a good story. I liked it.
The greatest story ever told. Let's see. I'll do a fail because a lot of churches will fork out some money around Christmas. Like you can basically get all the work you want, and sometimes they're highly produced cool things, and sometimes they're not highly produced cool things. Man, there's a tie in my head too of which two are worse. Okay, I'm gonna tell you both of them, and you guys decide which one is worse.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the first one, big church, big Christmas program, and I had some friends there playing strings, and I was up on a riser, and I had to come out, and like we're back in the shadows, and then I want to say, I don't remember what I was playing, but it was some big violin opener. There's like piano things, boom, 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 and I'm like, wee, 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 wee. I don't know, but it's supposed to be pretty epic, okay? There's a prayer, and that is how, I shouldn't disclose these secrets, that is how musicians teleport from place to place. It's the prayers. Anyway, so in your brain, you know, when you leave the house, it's like wallet, keys, phone, or purse, or whatever. You have like a number of things. So I had to carry something out there. I don't even remember what it was. And so I had like violin, pack for my monitors, pack for my violin thing. And then I had to carry something. I don't remember what it was. I walk out there, and I had replaced the thing that I carried, like, instead of my bow.
Oh no.
So they're praying. The lights start to like warm up. It's gonna be this winter wonderland. I am center stage on a riser, and I like go to put my violin on my shoulder and just realize there's no bow. So I look over at the cellist, and I'm like, gonna just take his bow. Because I figured he was playing bass line. I figured he could pitch it easier than I could pitch my part. And I was just like, went for it, and I just ran backstage, grabbed my bow, and literally it was like, amen. So that was terrifying. The moment where you realize it's not there was terrifying. And the other one was we were hired as a duet, violoncello duet, to go to a church. It's like an awards banquet thing. And it was supposed to be background music. And they just said, yeah, just play whatever you want. Thank you so much for coming. The pay was pretty good. We're off in the corner. And they're like, hey, we got this little stage off in the corner. And they like put us up there, and we start playing. And then someone with a mic walks up and goes, tonight's entertainment, ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Blair, and hand me the mic. I had not prepared any entertainment. We had like Silent Night, First Noel, and everyone stopped talking, turned their chairs for this banquet for me to be like featured evening entertainment. And we just, hey, so now we're going to play First Noel. Hope you guys enjoy it. And then they would politely clap. And then eventually they just started talking because we didn't have an act. Which one's worse, forgetting the bow or being surprised with featured entertainment?
Forgetting the bow, I think.
You would thrive in that second scenario, I feel like.
I think voice is something that you have some flexibility in, which is nice.
Not background as much, I think.
Yeah, and voice you can quickly come up with like a little cover of a Christmas song that might be
Sing along.
Yeah. Oh, come on, everybody, join in on the merriment.
Joy to the world.
Yeah, but I think that particularly after you practice like exclusively with the idea of, oh, I'm just here performing this. I would probably be more on the err on the side of being thrown into a situation with. I mean, if you don't have a bow, you also like, I guess you can't perform, But
That was very scary.
but you were able to cover
But it
up
worked
for
out. What if it hadn't? What if I didn't notice until right when the lights came up? Bing! Bing, 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 bing.
I don't know. I guess if you're the only soloist, or like if you were the only person
Yeah.
performing, but whenever you've got a large group, you're able to sort of depend on each other. And of course, it's not as visually appealing to walk off and get that. But like, if you're a duet and you're hired for one thing and then you come in and they like expect something totally different, you're like, but wait, what am I doing? What? And then I start to clam up.
Too many unknowns.
Yeah.
What is a good representation of students playing Christmas music for you as a teacher? That didn't even really make sense. What do you look for when assigning Christmas rep? Are you trying to show the audience more of a good time? Are you trying to still challenge the student in a recital format? Is it for the student to just have a good time?
For Christmas music, I want, number one, the students to do something that they love hearing and doing, and they're going to have a good time, and will entertain the audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a time
You
for
don't really
me
try to challenge their...
No, and I don't try the long-haired stuff because I just want people to have a good time.
I wonder how... That's probably a conversation for a longer, different time. How do we challenge their... like their ability to sing for long periods of time, their endurance? How do we challenge their endurance? Because it's really, most student recitals, you're singing 2, 3, 4 minutes.
From a vocal standpoint?
Yeah. Do you guys have ways that you give the students to work on their endurance? Because it's got to feel different. You're singing a piece that you love that is well within your wheelhouse, but you're singing it after 30 minutes of singing.
For me, if they're singing 30 minutes worth, then I have them practice singing 30 minutes worth. And we will do our
Practice.
lessons to where we are able to do the entire set, and I ask them to do that 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
because
you got to know how it feels to sing it, like
You
after
do,
that
you
time.
do, you do.
you cannot, like, I guess you could, but you would be in like a vocal mess for a little while. But you cannot expect to sing through 1 or 2 songs a week, maybe a day, and then get to a concert and perform a 30, 45
Right.
hour long concert. Because by the end of that, I mean, some of the songs are exercising different muscles, whether it's breath support, whether it's actual like tension up here. By the end of it, you're just going to be riddled and hunched over because you're trying to give something that you no longer have. And so practicing for the 30 minutes of singing those songs, and start out small. Of course, it's increments. You can't just go and bench press 100,000 pounds. You've got to work up, in those little increments. Start with 1 or 2 songs.
Just start with 1,000 pounds.
Well, just imagine you're going to run a 5K and you've ever only run a mile.
Yeah. And just that, like a 5K is just 3.2 miles or something. So you've just run a third. You've still got to like overcome, even though it sounds like a small number, like that distance really makes a difference.
I've stored some random things over there. Can you hand me those papers? We're just going to get Miss Ivy's opinion on a bunch of random things that Mason and I wrote down earlier.
Yay.
You ready? All right. Try to give like a 30-second response. Oh, this is a good one for you, Mom. Favorite movie quotes? Ooh, we can all think about this for a second. Or just memorable.
Favorite movie quote is, "You are only mostly dead."
All from The Princess Bride?
Oh, that's you're
That's
only
a good-
mostly dead. Princess Bride is very quotable.
Officer and a Gentleman, Richard Gere, when he's like getting kicked out of his military thing. It's so over the top. He's like slobbering out of nowhere. And he's just like, "Don't you do it. Don't you do this." He's like, "I want your DOR," which I think is drop on request. And he's like, "I got nowhere else to go. I got nothing left." And it's kind of out of left field, but it's just like a huge I feel like it kind of put Richard Gere on the map. I think there was a point in acting in movie history where being over the top was just considered better acting somehow. But I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
Well, I like the Anastasia where the little sidekick is going, and I will kick her, sir.
The little bat. Anastasia,
Bart-
sir. Just
wait.
wishing I could do the job for you,
Isn't
sir.
it? Isn't his name Bartok?
I'd give a
Bartok.
hoya and the hoya and the
Good.
hoya.
A good composer name.
And I geek her, sir.
Bella Bartok.
Bartok.
Very good. Very
Mason,
good.
I don't know if this is a trivia question. I don't think it's direct music theory. Do you know what a Bartok pizzicato is?
It's not coming to the top of my head. Like,
Yeah? Okay, so it's just basically you pluck more vertically hard enough that the string snaps back against the fingerboard. It's like pop!
Oh.
It's very aggressive. I don't know if that's the formal term, but you'll definitely hear people go like, yes, but attack it more like a Bartok pizz. And then that's like, bang! That's what you do.
Wow.
Good.
I don't tell the kids to do that much because they will destroy their little
Destroy the
instrument.
instrument.
Movie quote. Throw one out there.
I think one of mine is from High School Musical 2, and it's where Troy Bolton is saying, "Should I go for it? I'm gonna shake this. Yikes!" And he's just
Is that in song form or is he actually dialoguing?
Oh wait, no, that's in High School Musical 1. It's mid song. That was in
That makes more
Get Your
sense.
Head in the Game. And
Gotta
then-
get your head in the
Yeah,
game.
and then that one.
I was reminding me of like a little baby. It's like you gotta get your head in the game.
And well, I mean, it's just a fun moment where they're just like, wow, introspective talking out loud. I do that all the time, though. I talk to myself.
I have this one written here that's specifically violin, so we probably
Oh,
do that.
I guess that is a good question to ask.
Okay, this is a good one. Advice for students: finding motivation at a plateau. Ooh.
Good topics.
Yep. It's pretty
Yeah.
good.
So what are
You have one?
do I have one?
Finding motivation at a plateau.
And this is always a good thing. If you've got responses,
30
like
seconds.
feel free to send those in. But I think best motivation for my students have been seeing where they've come from. Like, okay, let's look at where we have worked so hard to get to this point, and look at where you started and look at where you are now and see what that time difference has made. And then just imagine what that time difference will make, 6 months from now, next year. Because I've got some of my students who will study for, have studied for 6 months, and then they reach a point where they're like, okay, what's happening? And so we look at the goals.
I don't know what it is.
And-
I'm just not enjoying it as much as I was.
and sometimes that changes with seasons, with stuff like that. But I think recognizing the amount of growth is super, super helpful in reminding us of the treasure at the end of the search or of the journey. Does that make sense with the
There
music?
is no treasure. It's an endless journey.
But you accumulate some of the spoils of your
The
practice. and
journey
hard
is the
work.
reward.
Yeah.
Now, plateau is different than discouragement.
Okay.
When you said,
Explain.
okay, like when you said, I've just lost my passion. I've had students tell me I've lost
Yeah.
my passion. And we sit down and we talk about their lives and what is happening in their lives. And then I point out to them that music is really the only outlet that's happening right now because the rest is stress. But that's the only thing they can also get rid of because they can't get rid of school, parents,
Yeah.
brothers and sisters. So we look at that. But as far as plateauing, I say, hey, let's get together, let's do a tape, let's do a concert, let's put together what you already know,
yeah.
and let's do something for somebody, your parents, or let's get an audition together is how I pull them out of their plateaus.
Yeah, I think that's a really important
Interesting.
thing, a distinction.
Because I was thinking more philosophically is what I do with my students,
see.
but you are like having them do
Action,
stuff.
action,
Yeah.
let's get something done.
Yeah, and I think it gives them another thing to like remind themselves. I think it accomplishes both of those things. Like it gives them another goal that they're working
Right.
towards that can remind them of those things. But there's also like
Let
this.
me rethink my answers.
Yeah, it also gives an outside feedback from other people to see like, okay, I will eventually get through this. Because I think vocally, it's a really big journey for the voice student, because there are moments where you do plateau, and some of that is literally because of your age.
Right.
Like, your voice is going to continue to develop all throughout, like, your 20s. And I think a lot of people start out even in high school and they're like, I need to sound like this by the time I'm 18. And I'm you're not going to be able
luck
to
there.
Right.
because your voice is still developing.
Yeah.
And so whenever you've got those moments, you just have to remind yourself that the
Voice
things I'm
is
doing-
brutal, man, because you have like, you don't get to choose your instrument, and then it's like constantly evolving. Then maybe you kind of have a sweet spot, and then it starts changing again as you
Yeah.
age.
Well, one little girl was telling me, okay, what are you going to call me, a soprano, an alto? I said, it's like asking me to tell you you're going to be 5'6" or you're going to be 5'8". I said, there's no way to predict that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would say, so I'm assuming the plateau is coming after work, because you probably don't have a plateau as a beginner, because you just got
Right.
so many different things you can glean from to gain progress. So I would just want to reinforce, you have earned this plateau. Plateaus don't come without you earning them.
Good. That's good.
As long as
have
like
to
you
scale up.
are actually advancing. Like if it's just you're not ever practicing, people don't get as upset about that because they know why.
Right.
They might blame themselves. But I'd be like, you're here, you went to RCM5 or whatever, you're struggling here, you're at this plateau. Just recognize that you earned that.
Yeah, that's
And
good. That's good.
Usually, kids who, adults, everyone who
Yeah.
they have achieved something somewhere, and you can almost always go tie it into that. So that's what I'd say. I'd keep it more mental and be like, you earned that, and you're going to earn another one soon. So our growth is just plateau to plateau. So now we're here. Okay, it's like on a little island. Now we're going to swim to the next little island.
that's
I don't
good.
know when that's going to be. So
That's good.
that's what I would
good.
say.
That's good.
Let's see what else we got. Answering random questions. Ooh, I like this. And I can use my gavel. A random question, Mason. Are you ready?
Yes.
You sure?
I think so. How can I be certain if they are random? But I am ready for the challenge.
Okay. 5 musical composers. Think of them now.
Wait, just
Okay.
think of 5 musical
Yes.
composers?
And then we're
Okay.
going to rank them in terms of our favorite and why. And see if any of them are the same. But you got to think of them first.
Can I write them down?
Yes, you can write yours
Do you
down.
want some? Here,
Here, you can have mine. I'll do mine out of my brain.
here's another.
I will start with. I'm gonna take Bach. You guys can have Bach too. It's okay.
Okay.
Like number one's got to be Bach because the frustrating and fulfilling combination of the spiritual journey that it is to learn and attempt to master or play with ease a lot of Bach's work. And it's not all advanced. It's from here all the way here. Bam, 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 bam. You can play that year one
Yes.
on violin. And there's also, I can't think of a single example where one of the greats has been like, I have mastered Bach. It is just so challenging. And the more you learn about music, the more you pull out of Bach.
Yes.
That being said, I don't listen to a ton of Bach. It's a thing that you participate in.
That's true.
Yes. It's like watching someone hold a weight above their head for all day long. It's like, this isn't as fun to watch, but I bet it's really challenging to do.
Yeah.
All right, composer number 1. What you got?
So, I always tell people Bach is my favorite composer.
But why?
So I just enjoy that it seems like he took the effort. So Bach is really important in Western music history because prior to that, there were just small, it was still a vibrant culture, but Bach really took the time to compose what we call the common practice period, or start that, where we started getting some rules or things that made music like functional and like so then people later on would build on those foundational ideas. And I think whenever I think of the godfather of Western music, I really think of him.
It's like those great physics people that make groundbreaking discoveries and everyone else builds on their stuff. Yeah. Who you got?
I base my love of composers on the actual technique and the stylization things that I can glean from them. So one of my absolute favorite and always is Fauré, an impressionistic composer.
Okay.
Because for voice, there are so many things you can do with his music. And taking away the bar line, the way you phrase is so different than traditional music.
That is interesting.
And I love it when I can work with my vocalists and pianists on impressionistic music.
I never think about, I guess I have my most well-known Fauré pieces I love to hear on a cello. So it's like wherever I imprint onto how I hear something, that's like how I think about it. Even though they may have done many, many other things, like we know someone who sees Brahms as a writer of lullabies, and I see Brahms as like a violent warrior of wielding an entire orchestra and punching you in the face with brass and strings, and I love it. But that's very interesting. All right, that takes me to number 2, which is Brahms. Brahms has a way of, first of all, the body of work is incredible. So many small, simple, pretty melodies and huge orchestral, showy things. And somehow he's able to cross over into all my cool Russian buddies that I love that play all these violin romantic showpieces. I feel like Brahms can easily slide music into there. And I guess it's the orchestral voicings. It's like a dish that you've had a million times, but someone just makes it. It's like, this barbecue is the best. And that is Brahms for me.
Well, Brahms was in love with Clara Schumann.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
they were friends.
They were friends.
They never married.
They
but
weren't.
Clara was an outstanding composer. She wasn't given the notice because she was a woman. And not that I'm a women's lib or anything. But they were saying she was better than Mozart.
What's fair is fair. Okay,
brilliant.
True or false, with no explanation. Is Mozart overrated? Yes or no?
Yes.
No. Oh, I also have to say yes. Do you want to qualify it?
No. I'll explain more.
Do you want to qualify it?
He's delicate, and he's got some cool things, very redundant.
I think he deserves his greatness, but other people also deserve the greatness.
Right.
I'm not trying to pull him down. I'm just saying he's not an island of what he was able to create. Although the volume is still very impressive.
Yes.
He was very he was is it the word ferocious? Like he wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and very inspiring. And he did and accomplished so much during his lifetime that of course he deserves the recognition. But I think his works are the things that people know. And it's when they think classical music, they almost exclusively think of him. And I'm like, oh, there are so many other people that are really cool also. He
was a genius. I don't want to take away from Mozart.
Right.
It is a little easy to caricature a lot of his music, which I feel like is kind of unfortunate.
And he did write like Bach for younger, earlier students.
Which is handy.
Yes, it is very handy. Even up to the sonatas. Very nice for early pianists.
Yeah, and a lot of his compositions are so recognizable also.
Yeah.
So that's the other benefit. A lot of his music has been
I still love
heard.
his music.
I
will get
And it's great
His
for the
violin
brain.
concertos are great.
It's great for the brain.
He's in my top 5.
Really?
In my top 5.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
in my top 5.
Yeah.
That's
He's in-
awesome.
Bach and Mozart both are.
Well, I was going for favorite. which I hope has some crossover
Yeah,
with the best
yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
But all right, are you at number 2?
Number 2 is Robert Schumann. He was a little. He's not the best. He's not the best person. I would not sit down and be like, "Hey, Robert, why don't we share a cup of coffee or tea and just think about life." But the way he writes vocal music. Personally, I love it. It is more of a duet between the voice and the piano, which I think is beautiful. And the way he does it, he does all of these things where the vocal part can suggest one emotion, whereas the piano is suggesting another. And so you have this contrast of what is the person saying or singing and what is the piano suggesting is internally happening. And that process of just analyzing that is called semiotics. A person who is very notable for studying semiotics is Dr. Kofi Agawu. And so I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can read and research on him. But yeah, his just symbolism within music, and he's got these little nuggets. There's the Clara motive that he incorporated in his music. It just little sweet things along the way that you're like, oh, I've never thought about doing music in such a way. So
Number 3,
Amy Beach.
Okay.
Yes.
Another woman.
Amy Beach.
Yeah, good job.
Romantic composer.
So good.
She wrote some very dynamic. My experience has been with
She
her
write for
voice.
violin?
I don't think she's
Never
written
seen
for
violin pieces.
No, I think it's mostly vocal.
Okay.
But it's challenging, and it's notable, and it catches people's attention. It's not widely done. Her
So-
music's not widely done.
Is that for a love of yours, or would you assign that for competition stuff as well?
Absolutely.
So you,
Oh, yeah,
so you want the judge to be like, ooh.
That's right. That's
okay.
right.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yes. Catches the attention. I like to get composers and music that's not generally done.
That's pretty cool. So if they have 3 pieces, will all 3 be not generally done?
No,
Or you throw
have
in
to
like
get-
one?
They're usually asked for period pieces, so you've got to get something.
Are there a few standards that kind of repeat?
Yeah,
over and
well,
over?
composers,
Okay.
but not, the standards would be for beginning vocalists or pianists, and you only do those just to keep them safe, but if you want them to get a great grade or win,
Yeah.
then you've got to get something unusual.
So it's easy to not be the lowest to get some good remarks, and then you have to
Right.
be a little more risky to potentially win.
Right.
Interesting.
Because I think it's similar to Christmas music. Whenever you hear, for example, Jingle Bells back
I've
to
heard
back
of
to
that.
back, it sometimes loses the luster that once inhabited the song when we were younger. But whenever you've got these little nuggets of maybe an unfamiliar tune or a new Christmas song, you get to have this is a fun thing that I need to listen to again. And so you just want to remember it. So
My third, I'm going with Rachmaninoff.
Yes.
Someone who found a nail and hit it with the same hammer again and again and again. But I love passionate music and the rage with which he dispensed his mighty fingers.
Oh, yeah.
To the point that if you hear Rachmaninoff plays Rachmaninoff, it's probably not your favorite recording of anything. Because even when he plays his own stuff, it's just like,
Fast and Furious.
and I just feel like he had so much that he was trying to get out. And then, little story, his first piano concerto was not widely received. Well, he was doing it, it was kind of trying to impress these certain political figures and stuff, and it wasn't well received, and he took it very personally. And then his second one was brilliant and very well received, but then I always felt like he put extra revenge hatred. He had an extra chip on his shoulder when he'd perform one, because after he was famous, they want to hear all their works. So 2 kind of made him famous-ish. I might be messing all this up. And then 1, when you hear the recordings of him play it, it's like, oh, you like it now? You didn't like it when I wrote it. I just feel like there's just extra passion in there.
The passion.
Well, I heard a story of someone who was passing by a practice room somewhere in some performance hall, and they heard somebody meticulously practicing very slowly a Rachmaninoff piece. And so they thought, oh, must be a student of Rachmaninoff's in there. And it was actually Rachmaninoff practicing before his concert.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. So,
Go listen to Rachmaninoff plays Rachmaninoff, the first piano concerto. He's like,
amazing.
bum, ba, 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 and it's just,
amazing.
you can't handle it just all the time, but it's like just him on a piano. It's like an entire orchestral fanfare.
Well, his hands were so big.
Yeah. He utilized them. Number 3, Mason, who you got?
I put Hildegard von Bingen. Hildegard von Bingen. She is one of
Out of my wheelhouse.
Oh no,
She's like old.
Yeah, yeah, very old
Wasn't
composer.
that pre-Baroque?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like very think medieval.
I don't think there was a violin yet.
No, she was a nun, and she was a composer, and she was just I guess during that time, music still had a lot of stereotypes as well. But one thing that she did do was she wrote songs that would be performed at the abbey that she was at, and sometimes that music got her in trouble later on, just within the church dynamic then, and so. But she was such a cool early example of female composers, and in fact, like of that time period, it's so cool that a female composer is probably the most I guess memorable name to come out from that. But I enjoy just learning about her. She's really cool. She has a really unique story. So again, all of these people I'm just excited to listen to because of their stories and their journeys along the way.
4.
We have 3 women now.
Okay.
3 women.
That's awesome.
4, again, Bach.
Oh, Bach's back
is
around.
on my list. But the reason is because I love all of the ornamentation that you can add to Bach. There's actually so much improv that you can do. It's a great way to teach singers and students to start putting that creativity into some even very simple melodies and start. You can do turns, you can do trills, you can do little cadenzas within the music, and it's all allowable as long as it's within rhythm. And that's why I like Bach.
Bach is the gift that keeps on giving. 4, I'm just going to do a shameless, selfish love for the Sibelius Violin Concerto. I hesitate to say him because, just 100% of my love for him comes from the Violin Concerto. But the ability to, like what you said with piano and vocal running together, creating the textures of the orchestra back and forth, specifically on that first movement, the whole thing's magical, but it's just like instantly like nobody breathes when that is played.
Right,
well.
that's
The
right.
whole, and every single time. And I think you cannot be a violinist and not be a musician and not have heard orchestral music before. And if you're sitting inside of a concert hall where an orchestra and a violinist is playing that, you will still be captivated.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. For me, I think I am going to have to change Mozart from my top 5 and put just another person. But number 4 is Stephen Sondheim. Musical theater is a near and dear thing to my heart, and I love Sondheim because he's very witty. His music is complex, a little bit out there, and I think his storytelling is fun, and the concepts that he's writing about are really interesting. Or it covers a lot of area with I don't know, where it's humorous. There's also some sorrow, there's anger, and I feel like he does a really good job at emoting and supporting the voice doing those things, and even offering a platform for it to show off a little bit. That's a cool thing.
All right, the last one's got to be the hardest one because now you have to leave people out.
My last one's I have to leave people out?
Well, technically, right? There's all this body of composers, and you are having to select 5.
Okay.
What's the last one?
Roger Quilter.
Roger Quilter.
Same things that you were talking about as far as creating a duet between voice is my principal thing. The vocalist and the pianist. The piano will not help the vocalist at all. The vocalist has to know their song, they have to know their music, because the pianist is going to be doing something so totally different.
You know how you love vocalists being musicians and knowing you get a chance
and
to prove
he
it.
loves to change keys, change time, change. I mean, his music is chock full of variants, very challenging, and always something, again, that the judges will pay attention to.
I need to glean some more composers for my violinists. Okay. Oh, there's like a 17-way tie of everyone who's flashy. Because I like the composers that challenge what the violin is capable of in each additional era. They like raise the bar. But I'm going to go for someone wholesome. We're going to go Bela Bartok.
You call him wholesome?
Listen. Very violent in some of the things, a lot of cool textures. But he wrote like very staunchly for his home country.
Yes, he did.
And that was a tough time to be writing. In that is World War II, right? I think that's right. I think he's writing in World War II. And he politically and socially, because he was already prominent, refused to do a lot of stuff that his contemporaries were doing to save their reputation. And even though he loved his home country of Romania, left and moved to the United States and kept writing and kept performing and stuff. But if you look at the body of work, especially the ones which I like playing, he went deep into folk music and still making it showy. And so for him to have all that writing for his home country but still move, that's what sticks out to me. Personally, I know very little about him, but just kind of doing the unpopular thing after you're a prominent composer and then uprooting and going across the world has got to be a big deal.
He's still known as a nationalistic composer for his country.
Yeah, but I don't put him, even skill-wise or body of work-wise, I would never probably say you're a top 5 composer, but as far as favorites, it's really tough to not feel like you're connected with him when you're playing his music.
Yeah. My 5th one, and probably should be up higher, is Dolly Parton. I love Dolly Parton.
Oh, man.
Blair Academy is located in East Tennessee, if you're
That's
watching
true.
from apart. But I was born and raised in East Tennessee, and I just grew up feeling like Dolly Parton understood who I was, her background. I was so committed to that. But I love her storytelling. The way that she creates a song is not only designed to, of course it shows off her vocal ability as well, but it is just gut-wrenching, some of the topics that she was writing about during times where the music was really designed to be like ear pleasers or just like, a social, like a supportive thing. But she really spent a lot of time writing about people that were often overlooked or were unheard of in music. And she did it all while still receiving popularity and support from literally every side of the world.
Popular.
Yeah, and so I think she's managed to do something in the 20th and 21st century that is almost impossible.
Be universally adored.
But universally adored, that every person really supports her, or that I talk with really supports her.
I don't meet many Dolly haters.
Yeah, and her music is fun. And one night, the same night she wrote I will always love you. No, was it? I will always love you. She also wrote Jolene.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
But two big hits in one night.
It was two big hits in one night, and you're just like, oh my goodness!
When
like
it rains, it pours.
Yeah, and she just did a really great job.
That's pretty awesome. Nice. All right. To wrap us up, we could probably give some advice and encouragement to students out there at home. So we will wrap up with one advice for an adult student, and then we'll divvy up beginner, intermediate, and advanced advice for those students. Who would like to have beginner or intermediate? You'll take beginner or advanced? Or
I'm fine. I was going to do the adult.
I'll do adult. I'll give advice to adults. And then I will do...
It's beginner adult,
I'll do beginner.
intermediate adult.
Okay, you're a beginner student.
So two
Okay.
tips. One for any adult. And then one for kind of your traditional student. I will do beginner.
Okay.
So basically beginning violinist. And then do you want to do intermediate and advanced?
Sure.
Okay. So first, the adult. Advice for adults. Please listen to your teacher when they tell you that you're progressing. You're just flushing that information down the toilet. We're looking at what you're doing.
That's
Not
right.
necessarily what it sounds like.
That's right.
And we're like, hey, this is progress. Let's celebrate this. They're like, man, it was terrible. I'm terrible. How long have I been doing this? It's been 2 years, Ivy. Oh, man. Guys, okay, so yeah. Listen to your teacher's compliments and try to believe them.
Yeah. For my adult students, I would say remember that you are worth the investment. I know a lot of people who are entering in with just backgrounds of whether they have been told they couldn't perform or they couldn't sing or they couldn't play the piano, stuff like that. And just remember that even when it gets hard, like you're still worth the investment to practice. You're still worth the investment to not only take lessons, but also just in general, like you taking that step to better yourself is, I think, a sign of maturity. And and
it is admirable in and of itself.
Yeah. So take that time and again, just run with it, because now is the best time to do it. That's what I'm thinking. Music, now is the best time to participate in music.
What do you got?
You are doing this for yourself. One of probably the few things you're doing for yourself. Relax. Enjoy the journey. Don't be in a hurry. And you're doing it to relax. So if you're going to strive to be in Carnegie Hall, you're doing the rat race that you're doing at work. So just relax.
Whatever little goal you've created for yourself that you think will prove that you have mastered the instrument, you will think differently by the time you get there anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, and then I will start with beginner. My advice for the beginning violinist is impress people worth impressing. So other advanced students that you might know, your teacher, other instrumentalists, you would be amazed how impressive it is for you to kind of put your back straight, get your violin kind of more towards your shoulder, and present yourself like you take your instrument seriously. Even if it's just for fun, that kind of setup. And when we saw students play at these Christmas recitals, I promise you, the thing that we all talk about at the back of the room or behind closed doors is like, did you see the poise they had before they started, or at the end? They had their last note, and you're allowing that note to kind of fill the room and slowly die off. So it's those little tiny things. So don't worry if you're starting violin and people don't think you sound good. It's totally fine. No one sounds good at the beginning. So try to do those little tiny things that'll impress someone that you actually admire in that field.
Yes.
I think for the intermediate student, Spend time with your instrument, whether it's voice or whether it's piano. Increase your warm-up time. I mean, give yourself that time to really get to understand it. If it's your voice, spend time warming up your voice throughout the week and make it intentional. If it's piano, spend time looking at the posture and really keeping that, because ultimately, if you're looking to step up to this advanced level, we're going back to that longevity of the use of your instrument. You need to be building up these practices so that they, one, become natural, but two, they, you will have the stamina, the endurance to be able to support the future thing. So spend time with your instrument, and for voice, know your translations. Like if you're singing in a foreign language, you need to step beyond this wall of I'm just singing and into the performer space. I think it's a part of knowing your instrument. Let me say that.
Right.
I think it's a part of knowing your instrument, particularly understanding those key ingredients to take you from this level of I'm excelling in my instrument very well. I want to begin the journey to become more professional. Because I think once you've made it to intermediate, you will probably not just be content with being in the middle. You'll want to excel to the next level.
I think you'll either excel or quit. I feel like that's a big fork in the road there.
Yes. Advanced students, audition, audition, audition. Get yourself out there.
Do it.
Yep. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty good
auditioning.
advice.
Ugh. And it's so difficult to put yourself out there. But I mean, sometimes, but by doing it, each time you learn something and you get better.
That's right.
Yay. Thank you for joining me, Miss Ivy, aka Mom, and Mason Van Horn on this episode of Blair on the Air. We will now adjourn.